Hey everyone, it's Dara. So I decided to do a very impromptu video because there's something that's really been bothering me for a while now, and I was gonna just do my usual preparation and set up my camera and all that stuff, but you know what, I was here making a cup of tea and I decided to just be impromptu and do this video. So I hope it comes out okay. Forgive me, I'm not looking all that gorgeous, and frankly I don't care because I think that the topic I'm going to discuss is pretty much going to make sense why I had to do this video. Now, some of you may know that I am a very bubbly person. I love coming on YouTube as well as on my Instagram and talking about positive things that can motivate you and make you feel good about yourself and whatever situations you may be in. However, I think that there are people out there who take kindness for weakness and do things that are just not nice, that's inappropriate, and I'm here to discuss those things with you. So I have basically been trying my best to not bring up topics that are upsetting, at least to me personally, because you know I like to be bubbly and happy, but again I just feel kind of like, yeah, I have to. Okay, so what is the thing that's really bothering me? I really have a hard time understanding people sometimes. I think that just because you're a nice person, just because you're expressive, doesn't give you the right to do things that are inappropriate. So let me express what I'm talking about. One of the struggles I tend to have with people, even with men that I tend to meet in my life, but women too, is that when they meet me, or those who have known me for some time, they know I'm a very expressive person. I've always been an expressive person since I was a little girl. I've always been a very huggable type of person. So, you know, being loving and caring is not an act. It's not something that I pretend to be for the sake of YouTube or social media. This is just how I genuinely am. And what's very hurtful is when people who tend to come into my life and I guess pretend that they're my friend or come across that they care and say and do things that are just not nice, and then turn around and make it like, well, it's your fault because you're too sensitive or you're taking things too personal. And in my mind I'm like, so let me give you the best example. One of the things I really hate the most, and I don't like to say hate because it's such a strong word, but I have to be honest, I really hate this, is when people laugh at me when I'm being serious. Now, when I'm being serious, the seriousness I'm talking about is stuff like, it's no secret that I have shared on a previous video that I do suffer from depression. I have issues with depression. I'm not going to say I'm diagnosed with depression per se, but I will say that I have issues with it. And it's something I've struggled with pretty much for a very long time. People who know me personally may not believe this because they see me always smiling and I always seem so positive, so it really comes to a shock when I say, yeah, I'm depressed, I'm not happy. And it's like, oh please. You know, they don't really believe me, but I'm being honest. I am depressed. And so if I'm trusting you enough to share that, or if I'm sharing with you maybe something I'm going through that is personal, that I do not come on here, say publicly, and talk about, and you laugh at me or you make jokes or you think, oh, it's no big deal and you just need to get over it, it's kind of like, wow, like, all right, what gives you the right to do that? Now, the one thing that I have noticed is that I get these type of excuses like, oh, that's my personality and I like to be laid back about problems, and so I laugh because this is what I do, and you're too sensitive, you need to loosen up, and it's okay. Now, let me address that. If you're laughing like just a giggle here and there, I may not love it, but I can tolerate. It's when you and you're pointing fingers and Dara, you're so funny, and you know, when you really become dramatic, that's when I get annoyed. Of you who know me offline, but I'm going to say here in the YouTube world or social media world, I'm very expressive and I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and I'm not rude about it. If I'm not comfortable, at least I'm respecting you enough to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't cuss people out. I don't wiggle my head and be like, hey, who you think you are? I don't do that. I don't like confrontation. I don't like argument. I prefer to just be myself and say, okay, here's the deal. I don't feel comfortable with this. If you tell me, hey, this is my personality, get over it because that's what I'm going to do, fine. You're absolutely right. I'm not here to change you. You're free to do what you want, but I don't have to deal with you either if that's what I choose to do. If I tell a person that and they continue to do it, and they keep doing it and they make excuses like, well, no, that's not the case. This is when I get more upset because I'm thinking, okay, I shared my reasons, I asked you politely not to do that and you do it anyway. So here's the other thing I don't like. The opposite. The opposite are those who are very arrogant. Those are the ones who tend to make comments like, you need to get over yourself, or life is hard and so what, and why are you so sensitive, you need to be stronger, and blah 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 blah. The arrogant types, woo, they try me. That's all I'm gonna say. They try me. Again, I'll politely say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that. Now, if you continue to do it and I back away from you, I leave you alone, you shouldn't come to me later and say, so how come you're not speaking to me? It's like, I like to give people chances. I like to try to be as fair as possible. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying my method is always the right method, but I do try my best to be fair and say, okay, at the end of the day, you are entitled to be who you are. It's not my place to judge you. It's not my place to tell you what to do. So do you. But you have to also keep in mind for the arrogant and for the, I would like to say, the silly, immature types out there who think they want to laugh at everything. You have to be considerate of the other person you're dealing with. When it comes to personal relationships, like, for example, if it's family, if it's friendship, if it's a relationship, if it's dating, same thing. You can't go to a person and say, I love you, I care about you, and then when they tell you their concern, you laugh or you act aloof or you just push them away and say, well, it's my personality, so you just need to accept it. It's like, well, then how can you say you really care about that person, because you're not considering their feelings? The other thing I want to address is for those of us who suffer from depression or who are going through a hard time, maybe you're dealing with something tragic or you have an illness or something's happening that's very, very deep to your heart. I feel your pain. Believe me, if you're in a situation where you're trying to talk to people and they're just being immature or silly, or I'm just going to be real, just plain stupid, I have to say it, I get it, because a lot of people are very insensitive when it comes to people like us. They are very insensitive to the sensitive. They're very insensitive to how we feel about things. And sometimes they'll even come out and say things like, again, all from personal experience, well, I'm not a doctor, so how can you expect me to understand? Okay, I'm not asking you to analyze me. I'm not asking you to diagnose me. I'm just asking you to be a friend. Try your best to show some type of understanding, or as I like to say, empathy. You don't have to sympathize if you don't want to. You don't have to care that much. You don't even have to be invested in what I'm saying, but try to be understanding and laughing at someone when they're going through a difficult time. Making jokes, making comments like, oh, your feelings don't matter, who cares? Or claim that you care, but you don't even think to say, so how are you doing? How are you? And I know that's a greeting, but it's also a very powerful greeting. There's a difference when someone's saying, hey, how are you? Because they're just saying it, and someone who really cares to know how you feel. Big difference. And if you care about the person and you care about how they feel, then you trust me, the whole body language and the way you're going to say it's going to be very different. I think it's really messed up, however, that when you have people who profess that they care about you and they love you and all this stuff, but they can't even think to ask how you're doing. And if they do ask you and you say, yeah, you know what, so-and-so, I'm not feeling too good. Oh, it's life. Get over it. Is that caring? Is that lovable? I don't think so. For me personally, I have left a lot of people alone. I'm going to be honest. I knew more people before than now. And the main reason is because a lot of people I used to know were very insensitive. There are people who I've shared very personal things with, who have laughed in my face, who have made fun, who have said things that are beyond inappropriate. And it has hurt me in a way where I'm like, you know what? If I don't start taking care of myself, if I don't start loving myself enough to say, hey, I'm not going to tolerate that, then guess what? These individuals are going to continue doing it. So I have cut a lot of people out of my life, and I have no problem continuing to do that, because I'm not asking anyone to care about me. I'm not asking for anyone to understand me. I'm not asking anyone to consider my feelings. But if you're going to be in my personal life and you're going to say things like, Dara, I love you, I care about you, then that has to be considered. If I love a person, I care about you, I'm not going to do anything to hurt you and make you feel bad. And if I do anything, say unbeknownst to me, that hurts you and make you feel bad, and you let me know, I'm going to apologize. Because that's what mature people do. They apologize. They be a woman about it. They be a man about it. They say, okay, you know what, my bad, I didn't know. And when you apologize, that means you mean it, and you're not going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over, because then you really are not sorry. You're just sorry for the fact that you're saying that you're sorry, basically. For those of us who are going through depression, you know, depression is a very serious thing. And I think by now in this 2017, you would think that with all the advertisements, with all the things that we see in our world today, people are committing suicide, people are killing people, you know, that people would take depression more seriously. And it's really pathetic that there are still so many ignorant people out there who think depression is just like no big deal. It's not something that is taken seriously. It's really sad. And I think more people need to be educated about it. And it's not because we're just sad people just sitting around our house like, oh, what was me, what was me. There are many factors to depression. There are many reasons why people are depressed. It's not always because of little things. It could be little things, big things, or both. So before you become judgmental, before you act like you're better than everybody, before you come across like, well, I don't feel depressed, so you shouldn't either. You know, there's a saying, don't throw stones unless you live in a glass house. Hope I'm saying it correctly. And if you know you don't live in a glass house, then you shouldn't throw stones. Because I promise you, every human being is going to go through something at least once. And it's not going to be a matter of, oh, I'm depressed or you're not depressed or we both are indifferent. It's going to be the fact that you're going to have a life situation that's going to affect you deeply. And you wouldn't want nobody to laugh at you and make you feel bad or to come off arrogant and rude and disrespectful. So treat people the way you would want to be treated. That's all I can say. I'm also going to put down hashtag stop the nonsense. Let's just stop the nonsense, people. I think this is the problem we're facing in our society today. You know, people are being very silly. They're going out their way to be like children, and it's sad. You know, there's a point where you become mature. There's a point where you grow up, and it's time that we grow up. We're all adults. We need to start acting like adults. And leave the sandbox for the kiddies. Leave them for the children who are playing in the sandbox. That's what they're supposed to do. You don't need to take your grown self and jump in the sandbox and say, okay, I'm going to be 10 years old again. No, it's time to grow up, because you cannot come to people like myself and so many others out there and talk about you love us, you care about us, I want to be your guy, I want to be your best friend or whatever, and you want to be a 10-year-old. It doesn't work. You have to be willing enough to be mature enough to really take what you're saying seriously, because you're dealing with another person's emotions and feelings, and to mistreat someone is just the worst thing you can do. And I'm so done dealing with people who feel like they take me for granted, they take my feelings for granted. I'm done. I will always be expressive, and people get mad at me for saying, oh, you're always expressive, you're so sensitive. Well, yeah, I am. I am sensitive, I am expressive, and I'm not changing for nobody. And if you're a man and you're interested in me, be interested. But if you don't like my expressive, sensitive, bubbly self, then keep it moving. It's okay. There are other women in this world. It's okay. If you're a female friend or potential friend and you don't like that I'm the way I am, keep it moving. It's okay. You don't have to stick around. I don't know why we make things difficult in our life. Everyone has the right to be who they are. So instead of you criticizing me and making me feel bad, move on. Meet the people that's right for you. And let us sensitive, loving, bubbly types be with loving, bubbly, happy people. That's all. And if you're going through depression and you're dealing with people who are mistreating you, hashtag stop the nonsense. Do not let them make you feel bad. Leave them alone. Let them be who they want to be. You love yourself enough to walk away, because you only got one life. I always preach that in my videos. I'm going to keep preaching it. You got to do what's best for you. Live your life. Be true to yourself. And to hell with anyone else who feel like they can't comply with that, because, oh my God, they need to keep it moving and leave us alone. I guess that's all I want to say today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep your head up.